Well, good morning, and thank you very much for your patience and waiting for us, which is not the way it's supposed to be at all. It's supposed to be the other way around. But, you know, thank you very much. Nevertheless, facing some technical challenges that we are going to have to continue with. They're not the best, but we hope that it gets better as we go along. Our guest this morning is Dr. Isiaku Ibrahim. He's a climate science and environmental management expert. And our subject matter is the raising by the federal government of a fresh alert over imminent flooding. In fact, as you know, it was Borno State that has been in the news, but we have been having what experts warn us. We even have a video. You recall that the president, as soon as he came back from his foreign trips, made a beeline straight for Borno State and has commiserated with the people there. Even this first lady has also sent a delegation represented by the the wife of the vice president who was there. Let's start with that video. She also made a commiserative visit to them to condole with them over there and also donated a healthy sum. We'll be right back.
Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, is represented here by wife of the Vice President, Nana Shettima. Her visit is to commiserate with the government and people of the state over the flood disaster. According to her, the devastating news of the flood bleeds her heart as women and children were severely affected, displacing them from their homes.
The mother of the nation says, you are in her prayers and thoughts. And inshallah, we are all going to rally around you to compliment the good work that you are doing to the good people of Borno State.
The First Lady presented a check of 500 million naira, courtesy of the Renewed Hope Initiative. Meanwhile, Governor of Katsina State, Dukurada, also visited the state to sympathize with the people over the incident. He also donated 100 million naira to support victims of the flood.
It is a disaster that has shaken the country, and it is something that we felt as a government and as people of Katsina State, who are brothers to the people of Borno State, to come with this powerful delegation to sympathize with you and to pray for the souls of those who departed as a result of this. We want to assure you that we are behind you.
We remain accountable to all of you for this very important visit, and we all meet in the future result. We want you around that table. And we believe in the long run, this support will reduce poverty in the state and creating jobs.
As the day ends, Chinese companies working for the state government also brought a donation of 70 million naira to assist the government. Jesse Tafida, TVC News, Maiduguri.
Okay then, so, you know, that's just by way of a flashback. In fact, the federal government has declared a whole emergency in there. And as we're considering this, there are also other climate matter, environmental matters that are also posing something of a danger. For instance, as I said, the federal government has just raised a fresh alert over imminent flooding. The Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency has alerted that the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon is scheduled to be releasing water in a sort of a structured sort of a way. As I was saying much earlier on, our guest is Dr. Isiaku Ibrahim. He's a climate science and environmental management expert. Thank you very much for coming on our program, Dr. Isiaku Ibrahim, and thank you for your patience as we've been trying to sort out these things. So first of all, welcome and thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Okay then. So this seems to be a sort of environmental challenge kind of a year. I mean, these disasters, if one might call, let me just call them emergencies. These emergencies, we're even hearing of tremors. These are sort of environmental issues that Nigerians haven't really been hearing about these things. Usually we would hear about them, earth tremors from, abroad. We'll be reading about it in the news, but the news is coming much more closer to us. Is there a particular reason why we're experiencing earth tremors now? We are being warned that there might be floods that might reach all the way to the south of the country. What's your overview as to why all of these challenges are now making, shall we say, the front of the table in these times?
Thank you very much. And as we know that the environment is not static, it's changing. Particularly with respect to flooding, collectively, everything we can live together to climate change. Let me give you an example. With area in the what we call Sudan Sahelian region, like Maiduguri, where we are having issue now, and KB Sokoto and the likes. The quantity of the rain we've had in the past and the present are actually different. And as these changes continue, we will continue to experience overflow of river and possibly flooding in our environment. So collectively, everything can be put on the doorstep of the changes in the environment.
You were talking about climatological aspects not being static. Could you factor into the conversation these are tremors that were reported in Abuja, I think yesterday, that this is also another alert that we've had. We don't usually have tremors, earthquakes, and that kind of a thing. Are they connected?
They are connected. The aspect of earth tremor is better in the domain of environmental geologists or geologists, as the case may be. They are in better position to give adequate understanding of the causes and area coverage and likely impact. But as for the climate, we can say with authoritatively that at the moment, the changing in the climate is part responsible for the recent flooding we have witnessed across the country.
Now, let's go back to the flooding then. What, as you can see, our caption is saying that a fresh alert over imminent flooding. It's not a matter of how imminent, because it does appear that it's not a matter of what we do, but it's going to happen. How we contain it, make it more manageable, might be the matter. Is there any doubt at all when we are hearing that flooding is imminent? Flood beyond where Borno State is imminent across the country.
Yes. There's no doubt based on the information available. Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency and Nigerian Meteorological Agencies have issued early warning or alert in the past, and they have all come to happen. Given the accuracy of their prediction, we can say that this is not likely going to be different. So definitely we should expect flood within the the period they have predicted. I think within the September and October period.
Oh, okay. To try and understand this, I think when we had another expert from indeed the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, he was speaking that the dam that, I don't know if it is accurate to say the dam failed, but well, the dam was overrun, and he was speaking about damage to some of the equipment of the agency. And I suppose one of the most important things to be noted is that the condition of the Alu Dam had been known to be not all that it should have been along the, over the years. I can't remember now, did he say that minimal damage was noted as far back as 12 years ago, and it got worse and it got worse until, I don't know if one should refer to this as a failure of that dam. So in the, and he had said at the time that equipment would need to be replaced. So I'm putting this against what you just said now, your comment of the accuracy, the relative accuracy of predictions from the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency. Is there any compromise in the efficiency with which they can do their job, seeing as they need all sorts of scientific equipment, some of which might have been compromised?
The question, what I can say is that for each dam has its water carrying capacity. And when you have more than the carrying capacity, of course, you're running into a problem. The report we have in Maiduguri is that at the time of the crisis, there was a continued rainfall, that there was hardly anything anyone could do at the time. But the issue where we can point out a sort of negligence would be that there have been warning of the challenges or the flooding to come. What were the activities or what were the actions that were put in place before the flooding or before the failure in the dam? So somewhere I will agree that there was negligence along the line, but by who and who is responsible is what I cannot say.
You know, at the time, we were looking at all these pictures of flooded out areas, and we were wondering how long would it take to drain. And happily at the time of that particular broadcast, we were told that these pictures, even the draining had started. So these things will drain. But in the meantime, it has caused catastrophe. And the most that we seem to be able to do is, thank God for these alerts so that there won't be a loss of lives, but it's about moving out of areas close to the dam and moving further, upstate, whatever, moving away from where you can have those kind of, you feel the full impact of it. Now, it's not enough, because oftentimes we are not planned to do that, to move people in that kind of a way. But I guess maybe first of all, the question is, the issue I'm asking about now is that these movements away from highly dangerous areas as the water recedes, hopefully, how well has that been going in your observation over there? That is the receding of the waters that have caused all of this damage that has put people out of their homes.
I didn't get the question properly. Can you?
Okay, the water, the flood waters, it was said that they will recede in time. In fact, we were given the impression that the recession had even started. I was asking you, from your observation, how well has that gone, even as we are considering this fresh alert over imminent flooding? The one that has flooded, Has it been receding?
Yeah. In this part of the country, you know that recently we had flooding in Argungu axis of the state, up to the point that the community along that corridor were submerged, the road were cut off, but presently people can, commuters can still move along that route, indicating that the water has actually receded.
Mm. And now, it was the Alu Dam, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, that was stressed and breached in the whole Borono incident. But now we're hearing about another dam, the Lagdo Dam. Is that the one that is now threatening the southern parts of the country?
That is not just, it's not just Lagdo Dam alone. There's also information that water is being released right from the Futajano through River Niger into Nigeria, indicating that we have more water in our drainages and as well as our tributaries. Lagdo Dam is one of them, but in addition to that, River Niger is also another, and we know that River Niger traverses quite a number of countries into Nigeria, and then everything empty at Niger Delta region.
Well, the president has said that this should be taken as an emergency. When he visited Borno State to commiserate with the citizens there, the president has already, given directions for a full-blown emergency reaction. Donations have been pouring in, but give me your assessment of what needs to be done, the amount of work that needs to be done, and that the president has already said the federal authorities, and he's alerted the governors. He's asked the governors to take proactive measures. What's the nature of the work that needs to be done? Okay. Do you require me to repeat that?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just observing that the president has said that there will be full cooperation and assistance from the federal, but he has alerted the governors to swing into proactive mode as well. Donations are coming in, we've known. That is in relation to the Borno flood that has been happening. But I was asking you, give us an overview of the kind of work that will need to be done, and especially how the governors, who have been asked to swing into proactive mode if they need any such telling, what can be done?
Yes, from the words of the president, I think that is actually correct, because in flood management, you need a combined effort from the local authority, traditional institution, state, as well as the federal government. What can we do at this point? In the case of Borno, what we now have is post-flood management. And in the case of others, where there are forecasting of flooding, we now have pre-flood management and then contingency for management during the flood, as well as post-flood management. Now, what can we do collectively? I think as people, let me talk with respect to environment that are expecting flood. Those environment the people need to be sensitized about the coming dangers. They need to be conscientized such that their mind are ready to accept lawful instruction from the constituted authority. They need to be advised to avoid at least driving within the running water. Now that is from the side of the people. Okay, in addition to that, they need to be of assistance to themselves, the children, the elderly, and the women. So on the side of the government, at this moment, we need to activate all emergency management machineries that need to be activated. The Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency, as well as Nigerian Meteorological Agency, should continue to update people on the situation, should continue to monitor and update. I think at the state level, by now, one would expect that they should begin to identify evacuation route, but because definitely when the flood does happen, the people in this community will need to be evacuated to what we can refer to as a safe environment. And then also deployment of personnel. We can see issue like security and also issue of medical team to look after the people when the flood does happen. And then we should then think ahead to see that at the end of the flood, how do we rebuild community to ensure resilience? That is to see how can we bring back the life of the people to where they were. It is at that point that we expect to see whatever has been put into consideration, we see the product at that stage.
I'm afraid your audio has gone again. Dr. Ishaku Ibrahim, our guest this morning, climate science and environmental management expert. But in the meantime, Mazi Okorafor has called in. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, I guess.
Okay.
Sir, when we talk about when we talk about this flooding, let me give you an example. 9 years ago, my own brother, the same father, the same mother, in his own house in Aruchuku, the television, everything was just floating in the house. Right now, how do we correct his television? The television is above a woman being's head at the socket. But thank God that the community have to embrace the river around. Now, let's come back to you see, there are states in Nigeria today. The environmentalists have just predicted that between 35 and 50 years to come in Nigeria, in those states, I don't want to mention so that people will not start panicking, that buildings in those states will start sinking. Now, many people have seen it, but we have ignored it. You see, Nigeria is a country where we have good policymakers, professor, doctor, they name them. But in terms of when things like what I've just said now, they are predicted, but nobody cares about it. Do you know in my own place, I was to go up to today, what is still happening within those vicinities, up to today. But many media houses, they don't talk about it. Now, climate change is real. Climate change has come to stay. Climate change is something that will be going on. As the year progresses, the climate continues changing. So, ravaging so many things. Thank God, as of yesterday, I was monitoring one of these programs. What did they try to say? That they discovered medicine for cancer. They call it Imminent. Now, this is another country that, but many Nigerians will not key in. You see how cancer ravaging the country. Now, the flood we are talking about today, my brother, flood does not only affect the setting of environment. Human beings also suffer. 1, sickness. 2, the pollution. That is why we are complaining bitterly about the destruction of all these oil wells in Niger Delta. Because the air that we polluted, continue polluting, and we continue destroying, continue polluting the environment. These are the causes of some of this, but we don't care about it. We feel we have achieved by destroying those things, but we don't know the side effects of all those things. So cleanliness is already saturated and it continues saturating. Many farmers will tell you stories that after planting, there was no rainfall for 3 weeks, 1 month. Many of them are now complaining. That is why, look at potato, how people are complaining. People planted, I was asking of a man, I said, what happened to the potato? Because I normally get potato from him. But he said, my brother, that scarcity of that rainfall affected their produce. Now, you see, these are climate change. Now, government in states, the ecological fund they gave the governors for the past 22 years, what have they done with this money? All those who were managing all this, can't Nigerian government, president states, all those people to order, come and show us the account you have done with the ecological fund you collected from the federal government, the foreign donors. You see, all those hanging, and those who have entered people's pockets, you see that cruising. Now, this Jimmy Carter, American president, he closed 100 years yesterday. Look at African president, past ones. See how they're looking at. Looking. This
okay, Mazi.
100 years. President of the United States of Jimmy Carter.
Thank you very much, Mazi. I'm afraid we need to create some time. Thank you very much. Good morning, Mazi. Appreciate your call. Okay, Dr. Ibrahim, I hope you heard some of that. One of the most striking sentences he used was that climate change is here to stay. It's not something we talk about and then go on to. It's here to stay. In other words, if it is making news now, and here we are talking about it, it's here to stay. Does that mean that? What does that really mean for a country such as Nigeria? Because we see of floodings, effects of climate change from other parts of the world. Now, for us, what the impact of the climate change that we are seeing? What's your sort of assessment of what it means, given our level of development, given the level of resources that we have to bring to, combat it with? What's your prognosis going into the future then?
Yes. For us at this part of the world, the first option we have is how to adapt to the changing.
Okay.
And that is why you will see that even at the global level, the developing countries have continued to canvass for a sort of technological as well as financial support for the industrialized country, because the truth is that we do contribute to the problem of the climate change, but when you put them quantitatively, you find that the developing country contribute less as compared to the developed country. That is one. But at the local level, like the last speaker said, the challenge is with us, and it's likely to continue. The resources available towards managing this crisis and towards adapting to the changing climate scenario should be properly utilized in that direction. So, all in all, it will require that as the rain is changing, duration is changing, that we work in combination with other sectors. How do we begin to have a crop that is can withstand or adapt the change or the nature of the climate pattern that we have? How can we redesign our agricultural map in this country in a way that it fits into the reality of the current climate? So generally, the best option for us now is to adapt to the changing, because the changing is real and is likely to continue.
Now, adaptation, thank you very much for bringing out that point. We're going to have to adapt to it. It's here to stay, as Mazi Okoroa for calling in from Arochukwu observed. But be that as it may, this adaptation, and you also did mention, Dr. Ibrahim, that unfortunately we ourselves contribute to some of the challenges because of that lack of adaptation. And when we've been sort of on a free, we've been in a sort of a reprieve mode, things haven't happened, people have gone ahead. Take Lagos in the southwest of the country where we are broadcasting from right now. The government in Lagos State, for example, is taking very, very seriously the matter of how people build. And in fact, that is never a pleasant experience, because when people build, the floods are not in place. And so people, you've heard all the arguments. Why is government doing this wicked thing? But government has a responsibility to look at it a lot more holistically, and it is never a comfortable experience, because a lot of money is put into building. I don't know, maybe part of this adaptation is going to have to be a zero tolerance for infringements of all sorts of town planning and landscaping codes, and the fact that we don't want to see any bare patch of land anywhere, especially in some parts of the country. People are immediately going to start making a play for it and to see what we can do with it. So that word adaptation, that we're going to have to adapt to it. As you know, the human condition is what it is. It often feels victimized when adaptations are made, for the larger good of the people. So maybe a few thoughts. Do you have a few thoughts? I'm sure you must have heard. Maybe Lagos is the most famous for taking very vigorous action that they say is in terms of this adaptation to the reality that we have, that we're endangering people by people getting away with infringing all of those codes. Do you think, how do you see this? Because the citizens are not finding it funny at all. Government says, well, we have this responsibility. How say you, sir?
Yeah, and I think sometimes as government, there has to be a sort of deviation from what actually, or where people actually think they should be and where they ought to be. The government should think about where people ought to be. Changes are actually painful, and just because there are a number of people that will be affected. But what I can say here that government should continue to explain to people the reason behind their actions. The number of lives that we have lost today, for example, in Maiduguri, if you bring those people back today and ask them to move away from the environment they were in order to save their life, I think they will gladly do that. So we can give example with a number of things that happen within and outside the country, that one or two actions that the government is taking which are painful, but they are necessary to safeguard our future.
Okay, let me bring on Alozie, who has called in from Port Harcourt. Good morning to you, Alozie.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Yes. The issue on this course, the imminent flood, is something that has raised concern to so many Nigerians, not especially we here in Port Harcourt. There is this revelation that considering the Cameroon dam, that they mentioned the southern states that will be facing the flood.
Yes.
So my concern with this issue is this is not the first time that this kind of thing is happening in the country. let's trace back to what happened in Borno. We had that type of flood that happened in 1994, thereabouts, but how it is now, this year's storm is more severe. Now, you see that, as the other caller has mentioned, there are funds that have been given for state government, federal government, as the directives on all these things, to look for a way to cushion the effect of these things from this natural fear from happening. And you see that in Nigeria, what we keep on, seeing every day is buying rice, buying beans, buying mass and all this. And the government is not even considering the psychomental effect of this flood to the people, to the common person. In River State last week, I went to a community called in Ahoda, Orashi region. A woman was crying. Her house was mud house. The flood immersed the house. The mud house, the water washed everything away. Do you know that, as I speak to you today, that woman has no place to live? He was still staying in the RDP camp provided today. What government will do is to just provide rice and beef. So we need to start to ask those who are saddled with the responsibility to do these things.
Indeed.
Because for me, fine, it's a natural disaster. But I also believe that we can also manage it as country, like other countries that start to manage this. So our government needs to, start up to, start to solve the problem, not offering rights and
okay, Alozie. Alozie, I beg your pardon. Thank you very much. We've almost completely run out of time, but we do have about 30 seconds for, our guest, Dr. Ibrahim, if you can still hear me, to just react to that. Alozie bemoaning the fact that these things have happened before. You would think that we'd be better prepared.
Yes, I have said something about resilience, which is post flood management. What we have had in the past, and this has been the challenge, that we manage flood during flooding. Immediately after flooding, the people are left to find their way. That shouldn't be the case. I think the authority saddled with the responsibility have to think beyond the flooding and the temporary camp. We need to see how we can bring back life to people, how we can rebuild community. That's
okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ishaku Ibrahim. I do beg your pardon, but it is the time. Once more, thank you very much for your patience, especially at the beginning, because you were in place in time, but we did have those technical challenges. So we thank you very much, Dr. Ishaku Ibrahim, climate science and environmental management expert. We're going to have to leave it here now, but do join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folari. Bye-bye for now.